channel. My name is Carly Stevens and this is English Nerd. Today I'm going to do something that I don't often do, and that is talk about the famous classics that I cannot stand. Now, these are ranked from the least offensive to the one that I wish would be just scrubbed off the list forever and ever because of the hatred that I have for it. So there are actually quite a few classics that I've read that I thought, meh. I don't love them for whatever reason, but I am going after the ones that I specifically and very much dislike in this video. So I'm going to start off with the one that is, like I said, the least offensive, but still super irritating and doesn't deserve to be on the list of all the classics that it is on. So that book is Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. Now, I've read a few Jane Austen books. I've read Pride and Prejudice and Emma and Northanger Abbey and Persuasion, and actually I've read a few, but Mansfield Park is terrible for a number of reasons. Number one, poor girl's name is Fanny. I guess that's not really her fault, but it's Jane Austen's fault because she named her that, and that's lame. But that's a small thing compared to how just self-centered and conceited and irritating the character is. I was bothered the entire time I was in her head, roughly in her head. To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Jane Austen's writing style. I know it's like I'm a female English nerd. Shouldn't I absolutely love Jane Austen? It's not. She's not my favorite because of the mostly omniscient style that she goes for, where she'll pop in and out of people's heads in her narration. She didn't do that as much with Mansfield Park, but the character Fanny was so irritating that I wanted to be outside of her head and not in it. So anyway, the story is kind of boring and self-righteous, and in the end, spoilers, and I hate spoilers, but for this I don't feel so bad. She ends up with her own cousin, which is gross. I really can't stand Mansfield Park. I think I actually have a copy of it, unfortunately. I shouldn't. Just give me a second. Okay, I do have a copy of it. It's in a complete Jane Austen set, but I definitely would not own that book by itself because that's lame. Okay, the next two books, I don't just kind of dislike a lot as I do Mansfield Park. These next two books I hate so much that I wish they were never written and that no one would ever read them again and that they would not show up on these classic lists of books you need to read because they are actively offensive in every way. Okay, you ready for a little vitriolic rant from me? Awesome. Glad you showed up. So the next one on the list of classics that I hate is called Endgame by Samuel Beckett. This is a play. It's super easy to read. It's like Hemingway easy to read. And it is about these characters with one-syllable nonsense names who just their noses are bleeding, they're trying to leave the stage but they can't exit, their parents are in trash cans. It's absurdist in the worst possible way. The underlying meaning of the play is that there is no underlying meaning, that human life has no meaning, that you can't even accomplish something as simple as ending your own life, and you can't count on even the love of friends. Everything is meaningless at its core. It was one of the most hopeless books I have ever read in my entire life, and I've read a lot of things, obviously, but this particular book was possibly the most hopeless I have ever seen. There was not a single glimmer of hope. There was not the least. None of the characters mattered to themselves, to each other, to the audience. It was just soul-crushing. I hate that play so fundamentally. I wish it had never been written. I wish that it had never been performed. I was depressed for days after reading it, and not for the, oh, my favorite character died kind of thing. It was that no one mattered, which is a different kind of depression, and one that I think true art doesn't actually evoke within you. So just a tiny side note. So my idea of what true art is that it's something that reflects reality. It can do it through all kinds of means. It doesn't need to be a photo realistic image or anything, but it ought to reflect how reality is. Picasso can do this through his cubism. That's great. But there has to be some kind of connection to reality. And hope, even in dire situations, is so fundamental to the fabric of reality, even if that hope isn't realized, that I think a work that is utterly devoid of all hope, present or implied, just is worthless as a piece of art and as a message. So, hate that so much. Okay, next up and at the top of the list is possibly the worst book I have ever read. I hated it. Now, I want to be clear, I've read from cover to cover all of the books that I am mentioning. There are books that I've started that I really didn't like that I stopped. These I've read all the way through. And the winner, drumroll please everyone, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I know that there are a lot of people out there who are big fans of Wuthering Heights. There are a lot of people who have read it. It's always on those classic lists of 100 books you need to read. It is considered a great romantic masterpiece, and I hate it to my very core. I can't stand anything about it. I hate the style of writing. I hate the dialogue. I hate every single character, especially Heathcliff, who's supposed to be the grand, brooding, romantic lead. I literally saw nothing interesting in him. Now, I can appreciate, sort of bad boy character. I don't need, all my characters to be squeaky clean or anything. For goodness sake, I like 1984 and these works that are very dark, that have anti-heroes and whatever. I just taught the end of Macbeth today, and I absolutely love it. This is different. Heathcliff is by no means a romantic hero, nor should he be regarded as such. At one point, probably the low point of the book, although the whole book was a low point for me, he hangs a puppy. Now, why that hasn't deterred people from considering him this great romantic lead, I will never know. Because I feel like Emily Bronte is waving this gigantic flag saying this person is the worst person possibly ever to walk the earth. And he is cruel and sadistic and a psychopath. So yeah, I didn't like him. I don't like the settings. I don't like Kathy. The plot was kind of meandering and spanned multiple generations, which is just it's a taste thing. I suppose most of this is a taste thing. I don't like books that span multiple generations usually, because I feel like I tend to side with the first generation, and then the second generation kind of like muddles things up for me. Yeah, so Wuthering Heights is so bad. I mean, give it a shot if you want to. Let me know what you like about it, if there is something that you like about it, in the comments below. I would appreciate the feedback. But I can't remember, apart from Endgame and Wuthering Heights, I can't remember a book that I've hated so deeply than those. So anyway, this was kind of a negative video, but I feel like people kind of want to know what books people don't like, especially really famous ones that tend to make it onto those lists of books you ought to read. I would recommend reading almost every book on that list before reading any of those. So share your own least favorite classics below. I love most classics, as you know. I'm a big fan of older literature. It's not just that these things are old. I love older stuff. It's other things. It's the plot, it's the characters, it's the underlying philosophy. Okay, well, that's enough for now. Hopefully you were entertained by this at the very least. Do your reading. That's all that's assigned, and then you can make your informed decision. Yeah, okay, well, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.